What would you say if a police officer pushed you for answers right now and your next sentence decided whether you drove home or got dragged into a case? Most people talk themselves into trouble before the officer ever finds real evidence. Your mouth can hand police the missing piece they need. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could save your freedom in a real stop. And smash, like so you can find this again fast when your heart is pounding and your mind goes blank. Here is what you are about to learn. The 3 lines lawyers lean on when police start pressing you hard. Why one friendly answer can open the door to a search you never meant to allow. How one question tells you if you are still stuck there or if you can leave. And the exact sentence that shuts down the pressure when the questions stop being casual and start sounding like a trap. Here's the reality. Police are trained to keep talking. You're not trained to answer under stress. That gap is where people lose their rights. Most people have no idea how fast a normal stop can turn into a fishing trip for drugs, guns, cash, or a confession. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos. The pattern is always the same. The driver tries to sound nice, tries to explain too much, and ends up making the officer's job easy. Let us talk about why this matters to you so much. A lot of drivers think being polite means saying yes to everything. It does not. You can be calm, respectful, and still protect yourself. That is the move. What gets people in trouble is not usually yelling or acting crazy. It is nervous talking. It is saying, "I've got nothing to hide," then agreeing to a search. It is answering questions you were never required to answer. It is trying to talk your way out of a ticket and accidentally giving away facts that build suspicion. Here's the reality. Police do not need your help to do their job, but they love getting it. Every extra word from you is something they can use, twist, remember, or write down later. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Your job is not to win the conversation. Your job is to stop feeding the investigation. The first line is the one that protects your car, your bag, your phone, and anything else within reach. Let me show you exactly what to say when the officer asks, "You mind if I take a look?" Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches," word for word. Memorize that line. Not, "I would rather you did not." Not, "Why do you need to?" Not, "I guess that is fine." You want simple, calm, and clear? "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Why does that line work for you? Because consent is the shortcut. If you give it, police do not need to fight for that search the same way. If you remove consent, they have to stand on their own reason. That changes everything. This is 100% legal. You're not required to help create a case against yourself. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court. They know that once consent shows up on body cam, it becomes much harder to challenge what happened next. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Yeah, go ahead, I've got nothing." Then the officer starts opening containers and moving things around. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then the officer has to decide whether there is a legal reason without your help. Watch what happens in real stops. The officer often tries again with softer words. "If you have got nothing, why not let me look?" Or, "It will only take a second." That is pressure, not magic. Your answer stays the same, calm voice. Same line. No debate, no speech, no attitude. Just the line. Former police officers have confirmed this works. Why? Because clear refusals are harder to twist. Rambling answers create openings. Short answers close them. The legal backup is strong. In Schneckloth versus Bustamante, the Supreme Court said a search based on voluntary consent can be valid. In plain English, if you say yes, that yes matters. Police do not have to warn you that you can refuse before they ask. That is why your clear no matters so much. Your refusal does not guarantee the officer will stop searching. They may still claim they have a reason, but your refusal protects you later because it shows you did not hand them the shortcut yourself. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the conversation shifts from traffic issue to evidence hunt. Have you ever been asked for a search during a stop? Drop a comment below, because I want to know how many of you heard that just a quick look line. The second line tells you whether this stop is still a detention or just a conversation you can walk away from. Here's the trick they do not want you knowing. A lot of people stay and keep talking long after the reason for the stop is over, because they never ask the one question that clears the fog. You look at the officer and say this: "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Those exact words. Keep them in that order. Say them calmly. Then stop talking. Why is that line so powerful for you? Because it forces clarity. If the officer says you are free to leave, the encounter should be over and you go. If the officer says you are being detained, now everyone knows this is not a friendly chat. Officers often keep people talking in the gray zone. You do not want gray. You want clear. Let me show you exactly how the trap works. The officer hands back your license. You think it is over. Then comes, "Hey, one more thing. Where are you headed? Anything illegal in the car? Mind if I search?" Many drivers think they still have to stay. They do not ask, they keep answering. That is where the damage starts. Bad way. Most drivers say, I'm just going to my cousin's place, and no, but you can check if you want. Then the stop keeps rolling, and now the officer has consent plus extra information. Good way. Smart drivers say, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to either end it or clearly own the detention. This is 100% legal. You are allowed to ask if you are free to go. That is not resisting. That is not being difficult. That is you finding out the rules of the moment. And the timing matters. Ask it after you have provided the basic documents and after you have followed any lawful order. Do not use this line to argue about simple commands. Use it when the officer keeps extending things. The legal support here comes from cases like Rodriguez v. United States. The Supreme Court said police cannot extend a traffic stop for extra investigation, like a dog sniff, without more legal reason. In plain English, they cannot keep you there just to go fishing once the traffic job is done. Your question exposes if they have a real reason to keep you, or whether they are hoping you will stay out of fear. Watch what happens when a driver finally asks it. The whole tone changes. The third line is the hardest to say because your brain will scream to explain. When questions turn sharp, your safest move is to stop the talking. Say this, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer. Word for word. Memorize that line too. This line is for the moment when the stop turns sharp. Maybe the officer asks about evidence or says your friend already told them everything. That is when you stop trying to sound innocent. Innocent people talk themselves into trouble, thinking truth will save them if they explain enough. But stress makes people guess. Guessing turns into contradictions. Contradictions turn into probable lies. That becomes a report. Bad way. Most drivers say, they're not mine. I mean, maybe my cousin left them. Then every word gets picked apart. Good way. Smart drivers say, I am invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer. Then the questioning gets much harder to keep pushing. Here is why that line matters. Silence by itself is not always enough. In Berghaus v. Tompkins, the court said, you need to clearly invoke your right. In Davis v. United States, the court said, asking for a lawyer has to be clear too. Maybe I should talk to a lawyer is weak. I want a lawyer is clear. I'm invoking my right to remain silent is clear. Miranda v. Arizona says, police cannot use statements unless rights are protected. Your job is to speak clearly once, then stop speaking. This line is not about acting guilty. It is about acting smart. Defense attorneys use this exact line because they know the most dangerous speaker is often the accused person before counsel shows up. If you made it this far, you are serious about protecting your rights. Hit that like button because what comes next ties all three lines together. Schneckloth means if you consent, that search is lawful. Rodriguez means officers cannot drag out a traffic stop without more reason. Miranda, Berghaus, and Davis mean your rights work best when you use clear words, not hints. Your third line tells police you are done answering. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. The law is not built around long speeches. It rewards clarity. That is the theme you should remember. Clear no, clear question, clear invocation. That is why lawyers sound so simple when the pressure gets high. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection. Simple beats emotional every single time. Now picture your own traffic stop. It is dark. Your heart is pounding. The officer says you rolled through a stop sign. You hand over your license, registration, and insurance. Then the officer asks where you're coming from, who you were with, and if you would mind popping the trunk. Wrong way first. You smile because you do not want trouble. You start explaining your whole night. You say you were with friends, then later say you were alone. You laugh nervously and say, you can search if you want. The officer finds a bottle, a bag, or cash. Now the stop is no longer about the stop sign. It is about whatever your own words and your own consent just unlocked. Now the right way for you. You keep your hands visible. You give the documents you're required to give. If the officer orders you out, you get out. No sudden moves, no arguing. But when the officer asks for a search, you say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Calm voice. If the officer keeps talking after the traffic business is done, you ask, Am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then you wait. If the officer starts pressing with crime questions, you say, I am invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer. Then you stop. No speeches, no side stories, no just one thing. That is the difference. Bad way. Most drivers say, Sure, I will explain everything. Then the case grows legs. Good way. Smart drivers use the three lines and stop feeding the fire. Then the officer has to rely on real evidence, not your panic. And one more thing for you. These lines are not magic spells. They do not let you ignore lawful orders. They do not let you refuse required identification. They do not let you physically stop a search if police do one anyway. What they do is protect your position, protect the record, and stop you from making it worse. That alone can change the outcome of your case. Next week, I am revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe right now so you do not miss it. That line gets people searched and arrested every single day. So lock these 3 lines into your memory right now. First, officer, I do not consent to any searches. That protects your space. Second, am I being detained or am I free to leave? That forces clarity. Third, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer. That shuts down the pressure when questions turn dangerous. Former police officers have confirmed this works. Simple words keep you from giving away your rights by accident. When police push hard, your best defense is not a better story. It is a better script